Good morning, friends. I want to begin today by describing something that I suspect you know very well. A moment that visits almost everyone who undertakes this work seriously. You have set aside the time. You sit. You close your eyes. You reach for the state. You press toward the assumption. You labor to feel yourself already in possession of the thing you desire. And while you are doing all of this, beneath the effort, beneath the practice, a quiet voice rises from somewhere inside you and asks a question you have never quite been able to silence: but how does this actually become real? And it is a fair question. Consider the situation honestly. You are in a room. Your eyes are closed. You are imagining. And the life you want, the person, the home, the circumstances, the freedom exists somewhere out there, separated from you by distance and time and 1,000 events that have not yet occurred. The streets you have not yet walked down. The people you have not yet encountered. The particular chain of circumstances that would need to align. And the voice asks again with genuine bewilderment, what exactly is the connection between what I am doing in here and what eventually shows up out there? I want you to know that voice is not weakness. That voice is not doubt in the destructive sense. That voice is your intelligence asking for something real to hold onto. And tonight I intend to give you something real. Not a phrase to repeat. Not another technique to add to the pile. A genuine understanding of the mechanism. Why the inner life reshapes the outer one. What is actually happening when it works, and what has been quietly preventing it when it has not. I have called this teaching How to Manipulate the Field. By the time we are finished, that phrase will mean something precise to you. And more importantly, you will know how to do it. Let me offer you a picture. I offer it not as doctrine, but as instrument. Something to think with. Something to work with. Something that will make the teaching usable, rather than merely interesting. Imagine that you find yourself standing in an immense dark space. No ceiling you can make out. No walls within reach. And this space, this vast unlit interior, holds within it something staggering. It holds every version of your life that could ever be. Every outcome. Every encounter. Every possibility. Not as imagination, not as fiction, as genuine potential. Real and waiting. Present in the darkness, the way seeds are present in the earth before spring. The wealthy life is there. The loving life is there. The life of health, of purpose, of deep belonging. All of it present. All of it available. All of it waiting in the dark. This is what I mean when I speak of the field. The living substrate beneath the surface of things. The dimension in which possibility exists before it has yet crystallized into event. Many traditions have spoken of this layer, each in its own language. The mystics called it the imaginal realm. The philosophers called it the ground of being. The scientists of the modern age, working their way carefully toward it from a different direction, have begun to speak of reality as something more like a unified field than a collection of separate objects. You need not take a position on any of this. The picture is enough. A vast interior space containing every life you could live. That is the field. Now, you are standing in this space and you are holding something, a single light source, a torch, and it belongs entirely to you. Nobody else controls it. Nothing outside you determines where it points. The torch is your attention, the living direction of your inner life. And the law of this space is absolute and without exception. Wherever the torch is aimed, that part of the space comes alive. It becomes vivid. It becomes present. It becomes, in the most practical sense of the word, real. Because it becomes the portion of reality you are actually inhabiting. Everything else, every other possibility, every other version of your life, remains in the dark. Present, yes. Available, yes. But unreachable because the light is not on it. Now, let me ask you the question that changes everything once you sit with it honestly: where has your torch been? Most people have never once considered the torch as something they hold. They have moved through their entire lives with this instrument in their hands without ever noticing that it was theirs to direct. And so the world directs it for them. The morning brings bad news, the torch swings there. A difficult conversation leaves a residue, the torch sits on it for hours. A worry about money surfaces, the torch settles on the empty account. An anxious thought about the future, the torch holds steady on the worst imagined outcome. And the space around them lights up accordingly. All day, every day, the most brightly illuminated corners of their lives are the corners they never chose: fear, deficiency, the catalog of what is absent and what could go wrong. And the field answers faithfully, without judgment, without commentary. It lights up what the torch is on, and the person walks through a life built from those lit corners, wondering why nothing changes, never realizing that the torch in their own hand has been building it all along. Let me give you two people to consider. Not abstract figures, but the kind you will recognize immediately because you have known them, perhaps been one of them. The first person carries a chronic unease about money. Not poverty, necessarily. There may be enough by most measures, but there is no ease in it. They track every expenditure with a background anxiety. They think about scarcity in the gaps between other thoughts. When money comes in, the relief is temporary, the vigilance resumes quickly. When they imagine the future, the money question is always shadowed by threat. Their inner life around the subject of finances is a long, exhausting exercise in scanning for danger. That is where the torch rests, hour after hour, day after day, on the imagery and feeling of not enough. And the field, indifferent to whether this is what the person wishes for, illuminates that corner brilliantly and faithfully. The life that assembles itself around them is a life that confirms the feeling, tightness, difficulty, the sense that financial ease belongs to other kinds of people. Now, the second person. You know this one, too. For them, money seems to move without drama. Not always in great quantities, but with a certain ease, a certain reliability. They do not monitor obsessively. They do not rehearse scarcity. They carry a quiet assumption, not loud, not affirmative, just quiet, that their needs will be met, and they are met. Opportunities surface. Unexpected resources appear. The financial dimension of their life has a looseness and open-handedness that the first person finds almost incomprehensible. Two people in the same field, two torches pointed at entirely different corners, two completely different lives assembled from the same available material. The same principle holds in love, in health, in work, in the quality of daily experience. The mechanism never changes. The torch illuminates, the field responds, the life assembles itself around the lit corner, and the lit corner is always, without exception, wherever the attention has been resting most deeply and most constantly. When you truly see this, when it ceases to be an idea and becomes something you can feel operating in your own experience, almost every question you have ever had about why this work sometimes fails begins to answer itself. Here is the failure I see most often, and I say this not as criticism, but as a practical observation. A person commits to the inner work. They sit each morning and for perhaps 20 minutes, they do something genuinely valuable. They visualize. They hold the feeling of the wish fulfilled. They direct the torch with real intention toward the life they want. And then they stand up. They enter their day, and the torch, released from conscious direction, slides quietly and immediately back into its habitual position, on the lack, on the worry, on the old story that has been running for years. For 20 minutes, the desired corner of the field was lit. For the remaining hours of the day, the familiar corner was lit 14 or 15 times longer. And the field, operating with perfect mathematical fairness, gives back a life that reflects the dominant illumination. The practice did not fail. The understanding of what the practice actually is, that is what was incomplete. The 20 minutes of visualization is not the work. The 20 minutes of visualization is the beginning of an orientation that must then be carried through the whole day. Not by strain, not by constant effortful focus, but by a new kind of relationship with your own attention. By becoming someone who notices, with some regularity, where the torch has drifted, and who brings it back without drama, without self-reproach, simply and repeatedly, the way a sailor makes small, constant corrections to hold a heading. That is the work. Not more technique, not longer practice sessions. The intelligent stewardship of where your attention rests throughout the living hours of your day. That is what it means to manipulate the field. Now, let me be specific, because specificity is what allows a teaching to leave the room with you. First, begin with simple observation. Several times each day, not obsessively, perhaps 3 or 4 times, stop for a moment and ask, where is my attention right now and what is it illuminating? Not as judgment, just as honest inventory. You will very likely discover, particularly in the first days of this practice, that the torch has been on things you would never consciously choose to amplify, replaying a conversation, rehearsing a fear, cataloging an absence. The discovery itself is the beginning. You can